YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to my review for the first part of the Racles specials. Now, if you don't know what this is, why are you at this video? These are just a three-part special going over the backstory, a bit of Racles and his history with the Ohkuwagata Ranger powers, and, you know, probably a little bit about King-Ohger Zero and all that type of stuff. Sorry about this review being a little bit late, and while this is a review, obviously, me discussing it, I'm not going to give it a score at the end. It just feels like a weird thing to score because it's only like a 9-minute little mini-sode. But let's get into it. Basically, we have Racles working on his sword. Heyo, but he has these people working on the sword for him. Heyo, again, no, they're researching it, you know, the sword that he's going to use to transform into Ohkuwagata Ohger, and it seems like obviously he hasn't used it yet, at least that's definitely the way the episode makes it seem. And we get a little bit of backstory on it, or at least a couple lines about it, where apparently it was the original sword that was handed down from, like, the first king, or at least a king a long time ago. So I guess it's kind of right that it was a prototype, which makes sense because it only has, you know, Ohkuwagata's little boppet on there, so it was seemingly the first sword. So my theories about a prototype seem to be right, just a little bit different, going down a little bit different than I thought. And they also talk about, they do like the little narrator intro in this, which I don't know if they always say this in the intro because, like, I watched the intro once, but I don't, like, every time, I skip the intro and then the opening theme every time, so I don't know if they you know, say this every time, but they do mention, like, oh, you know, the general backstory of, like, we know the 5 kingdoms born out of this disaster when King-Ohger saved them long ago. But then it talks about how Shugadam was the first of them. So that also, I don't know if that was always in the information that it was the first of them, but then that makes sense that they would have the first sword that everything would be based off of. So we get a little bit of backstory on that. But basically, he's got people working on this for him. This one girl that's, like, eating sweets, like, that's her shtick. I'm trying to remember, there's some sort of movie or show or something. I have this memory of, like, you know that they're one of the monsters if they're, like, super into sweets, and I can't remember what that was. But it's super fitting because this girl that's, like, the primary researcher on this project for him, on the sword, and then also the big black gold King-Ohger Zero, which we get a glimpse at, which is really cool. And there's going to be a toy for that too. They put up pre-orders for the sword on wherever you can buy it, and in the images there's a toy of the black gold edition King-Ohger, which, you know, of course you saw that coming, but I'm looking forward to getting it because I love the design of this and I'm a sucker for a black gold color scheme. But I got distracted there for a second. The point is this girl is a Bugnarok. And I was confused about the way they revealed it because there is some weird dialogue between the two of them when we first meet, where she's like, you know, as soon as I'm done with this, like, you're gonna kill me, why don't I just run or whatever? And he's like, oh, you know, I'm gonna kill you or whatever he says. That was a great interpretation of the dialogue. But I'm like, oh, that's kind of harsh even for Racles. He's just a scientist lady and he's like, I'm gonna kill your face because you can't know about that. So that's what I assumed about it. But it's because she's a Bugnarok. And the reason I was confused about the way that it was revealed is because, like, later when he's talking to his you know, peasant assistant, I don't know why he's a peasant, but his, you know, one of the members of Balkan Skull shouldn't trust her or whatever. When they're talking, the other Balkan Skull guy runs in and is like, a Bugnarok's attacking, and he makes it sound like a separate incident, but it's clearly her that's the Bugnarok. So I feel like that raises some questions about, like, I thought the Bugnaroks first appeared at the beginning of the series, so I guess they've been around again before. Like, how is Racles involved in this? How is it involved in the powers? I think it raises some interesting questions, some of which I'm probably reading too much into, but it's definitely an interesting situation. I think he obviously knew it was her. And they also, I think in this episode, show the origins of them understanding the DNA lock, because at one point she's, like, brushing his face. Not like you know, like with a comb, but like she just touches his face. And then later when she goes to touch the sword, heyo, it, like, activates. So I think that's the origins of, like, oh, it responds to the DNA, because I still have his DNA on me, and now I'm touching his sword. It's just, it's too easy, guys. They're making it too easy for me. She transforms into a Bugnarok. I guess she's sort of egging it on to test him, and he transforms for the first time, and he, like, brutally stabs her in the back. It's like, it kind of reminded me of actually recently in Once and Always, Billy stabbing Rita in the back. And then he ends the episode by speaking of Rita, he ends the episode by calling Rita up, you know, this show's Rita, and turns himself in, and he's like, there's been a murder, and I am a suspect. But there's not a whole lot to it. I did enjoy it. I liked getting a little bit more lore backstory. I think that there was some interesting mystery sort of set up to it, and I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm honestly, like, more interested to find out about Racles' motivations in this. I'm hoping we get a little bit more about his character and maybe the backstory with him and his brother, because I feel like the lore stuff will ultimately be covered in the show. And that's another thing about this. While I do appreciate it and I enjoyed this for what it was, They're such short episodes, I don't know why this just couldn't have been included as flashbacks within the show. If this was like a 30-minute special, like 3 30-minute specials, and it was like really meaty stuff, then it's like, okay, they don't want to take time away from it. But this is all like flashback material, especially in a series like Sentai where you have too many episodes. Like, you got real estate and real estate to spare. Not necessarily the most essential viewing so far, but I'm curious to see what we get in the next two. Like I said, no traditional score because it's a bit weird to score. But what did you guys think of the special if you watched it? What are your theories on some of the stuff going on? Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.